Welcome to another video. The Maschine is not featured a lot on this channel, even though I use it pretty often. It's mostly been lurking around in the background of the other videos. I've had some questions on why I have both the Maschine and the Push 2, so I thought it was time to make a little video about it. The key question here is, do I still like the Maschine mk3 after all these years? And the short answer is, yes, I do. But before you turn off the video, I'm going to give you a little background and a little demo of it. So I bought the Maschine about 3 or 4 years ago, I think. I think it was a couple of years old by then. Don't quote me on that. And back then I was using Cubase, which had been my DAW choice since around 2006, when I started to learn to teach myself to record music. At the time I had been watching a lot of beat making videos, mainly people making lo-fi hip-hop types of beats, boom bap beats and those kinds of things. All very different in sound and structure from the things I was doing back at the time. So that fascinated me. And I wanted to be able to make that kind of music. So I set out on a journey to learn about the genre and how to actually make it. So I watched a lot of videos. And I browsed a lot of web shops. You know how it is. After a while I decided I wanted to get an MPC style of a Groovebox type of device. And after a lot of research I landed on the Maschine mk3. Because it was relatively affordable and it seemed well supported by Native Instruments, who kept and keep releasing expansion packs and synths for it. So I pulled the trigger and got it, and I loved it. I love the sounds, I love the expansion possibilities, I love the synths, the drums, all the effects, the loops that were included, and also the sampling capabilities and the chopping capabilities of this. Just the thought of being able to take some music and chop it up and repurpose that to new music that really fascinated me, so I really love that. It took some time to get used to it though. Playing on the pads is very different from playing on a keyboard, and I had to get used to how Ideas View worked, because that was very different from what I was used to. And how the expansion worked, and all the parts of that, also how the synths worked were pretty straightforward, but how it was structured with groups and pads and the different modes, and also how to work with samples. More of that later. But let me take you with me over here to the Maschine and show you a little bit how it works. So put on some ears. Right. So here it is. These are the groups. This is where you load up the instruments or samples or loops. These are the pads. You play them, have them. There's in pad mode for the drums, and over here you can see you have the mixer view. You can mix either internally in the groups or just mix the groups themselves. You have a good view of the effects of the synths. You have the sampler window here, and the browser where you can browse all the expansions and instruments and synths, all that. So you can browse sounds, you can browse groups, mostly drums and all that, instruments, effects as well, etc, etc, etc. Here you have pad mode, and I also can, here in pad mode, on the group A I have some drums, have some hi-hats and a bass and a little pad, strings pad. This is some plucks I'm going to just jam with now. Also we have this nifty chord module, so I can set the chords to minor. So if I want to just play chords quickly, I can do that. So yeah, basically I mostly use the keyboard view and I use chords sometimes with the piano when I'm making more hip-hop style beats, but yeah, the keyboard view. And I can also, up here I can transpose octaves up, octaves down, semitones. I can set the root notes and so on, and all that. So let me put you down here and play a little track I've been working on for a couple of months. So I started this track a couple of months ago. Not sure what to do with it yet, but I can just play it for you and jam a little on top of it so you can see what you can do with it. So that wasn't probably the best one, but yeah, all in all, this is a very good piece of kit, and I love how different the music I make on this sound from the music I regularly make. All the background music in this video is made on the machine, by the way. The only drawback to this is that you need to be connected to your computer. I wish I could use this in standalone mode natively, but unfortunately, in order to do that, we'll have to get the Machine Plus, which is about twice the price of the machine. So that's starting to become very expensive, I think. Another thing I struggle with is working with samples, especially time stretching a sample to fit to a project's tempo and stay that way. The process to do this is when the project tempo is different from the sample original tempo. The process to do this feels unnecessary, convoluted and difficult and counterintuitive. And still, after watching video after video after video and sifting through the manual, because I've read that, And I struggle to make a song sample fit completely with the project's tempo and stay synced when I pitch the sample up or down. It's getting better, it's getting closer, but I'm not quite confident that I have it yet. And yeah, so don't feel that I have completely understood the whole process yet. And when you consider the amount of videos on the topic out there on YouTube, where people have lots of different suggestions and strategies on how to cope with this, it tells me that Native Instruments have made this a bit too complicated and not user-friendly, to be frank. Ableton Live does this a lot more better and understandable in my view. But these two things are the only gripes I have with it. So I just love to jump in, fire it up, load up some sounds and instruments, and just lose myself in a meditative creative journey. Like that. The ideas view works similar to Ableton's session view, and the song view works similarly to Ableton's arrangement view. So if you're familiar with Ableton, you will be right at home with that. It took me a little bit time to understand, but when I jumped into Ableton again, I was able to understand the session view and the arrangement view a lot better. So it's better. And you have the mixer, you have lots of effects. Also, you're able to use the external effects, which are the effects that are and plugins you have installed on your PC. So it's perfectly fine and perfectly doable to record and mix and finish up and arrange a whole tune completely inside of the machine. I tend to use it to make ideas, and if I have something that's good enough, I sort of arrange it and then I export the stems and continue working with it in Ableton. That's just because I'm more comfortable with that. So whatever your poison, whatever your process, whatever works for you. So after a couple of years, I think, I decided to make the jump to Ableton Live and get the Push 2 as well. I got a good deal on that. And that became my main door, and that's where I spend most of my time these days. Making music. Since the pads on the machine are so good, so nice to play, they're big and they feel good and very responsive. So I tend to, when I'm in Ableton, I have the machine hooked up in MIDI mode and controlling a drum track, basically just the machine. So I can use the Push 2 to stop recording, do a little bit of mixing on the fly. I can play other synths or other samplers if I want to, in addition to my keyboard. So that makes for a really efficient and inspiring workflow when recording new ideas and recording music in general. You can see how I use this in my last video, where I showed how I make my music, with a whole workflow and how I use the two devices and all that. I also demonstrate that. So I'll link that. If you haven't seen it, I'll link that video in the description below. And also I might, if I remember to do that, pop a card up here or there, somewhere on the screen now. If I remember, getting old. So yeah, so you can have a look at that video if I haven't before, and also check out my older videos. So that's more or less it. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button, that helps lots, and consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. And then go back and watch the older videos. And yeah, that's it. Nothing more to say than thanks heap for watching. I do appreciate every single one of you, and yeah, sticky out.